this one indicator, I feel like it's a cheat sheet. I feel like it's like the don't tell anyone, but I figured out the code of how to find out when the seasons change. And it's as simple as one indicator called the progressed moon.
Does your zodiac change over time?
It's an absolute yes. The chart shifts and you will feel it strongly.
Why are you saying the progressed moon is a hub of the puzzle that holds the clues for everything else?
Because we're emotional creatures, because we're made out of water. When people call me and they say I'm stuck, I look right at their progressed moon.
Everything fell apart, and what would have happened if I had just honored where I was at? Like if I could have had some trust.
If you don't know how to dance, you're just being confused by why the music just changed. So pay attention to the cycles and get in alignment. Once you do, it's so easy.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Astrology Hub podcast. I'm so happy that you've decided to join us today because we are going to be having an amazing conversation here with an incredible woman, an incredible astrologer. Her name is Debra Silverman. For those of you who don't know her, which it's kind of hard to imagine there's any of you left out there who don't know her, but Debra has been studying, teaching, practicing astrology for over 40 years, right, Debra?
50.
Almost 50 years. She is a beloved teacher for astrology students worldwide. She runs, I think, probably the largest astrology school training people in astrological chart reading. And she is really known for her ability to speak English when talking astrology and really take a very complex language and system and make it easy to understand, make it easy to apply, thereby giving students confidence to begin reading charts, which I've interviewed so many astrologers. And every time I ask, what advice do you have for beginning students? They all say, read a lot of charts. So I love that Debra creates this bridge and makes that beginning so easy for people and enjoyable. And so, Debra, welcome to the Astrology Hub podcast. I'm so happy you're here again.
Thank you.
Okay, so today we're talking about seasons of life.
But can I just back up for a minute? The reason why my gift is English is because my Mercury's in Taurus. So one of the things we really focus on in our school is the function of the mind, because I have a Buddhist background and the whole reality exists inside these two little ears. And if you're not conscientious about where the fixation is, you will get tripped up. So when I found out my Mercury is in Taurus, I was like, oh, is that why I'm so slow and simple? First, it was bad.
Right.
I felt self-conscious that I was slow and simple because I was criticized in school. And then as years went on, as a teacher, I thought, why do people love studying with me? Oh, that's right, because it's simple and simple and simple. So I've given people the way to apply astrology. And that's what we talk about today. Like you can go, and there's so many brilliant astrologers in Astrology Hub, and they have so much content. And my goal is to make it applicable day to day.
Right. Yes. Well, so my Mercury's in Capricorn.
Why we get along so well.
We share that like practical, tangible, useful,
responsible. We're both on time. We're both accountable. Our thought process would not allow us to not do what we say we're going to do. Whereas people with Mercury and water, they just go, what did I say again? I didn't write it down. I can't find my pen.
Yes. Okay. So let's talk about this idea of seasons of life. You know, we're not always in the summer of our life. We're not always in the winter of our life. What do you mean by that? And how does astrology point us in the direction of what season we might be in?
So the first obvious one is transits, which we all study, and it's a very long life study. Where are the planets in the heavens and how are they affecting your chart? First things first, go study your chart, of course, before you're even interested in time and you're interested in who you are. That's how we start in our school, like simple identification of who am I. Then once I figure out who I am, I'm like, hold on a minute, what did I agree to do? That's our big focus at our school, Saturn. And then the question is, when does it come into focus? Because you know that when you graduate at 21 years old, when you're finishing high school at 18 years old, these are eras. Or when you finally get married and somewhere Saturn return happens, you have your first child. These are all natural seasons. And in olden days, they had bar mitzvahs, they had initiations, they had different versions of how to let people be identified to shift. In astrology, It's very complicated at the transit level because we know between 40 and 42, Uranus is opposite Uranus. We know between 28 and 30, there's Saturn not in conjunct Saturn. We know every 7 years, Saturn, we learn this in our school, has a season. But this one indicator, I feel like it's a cheat sheet. I feel like it's like the don't tell anyone, but I figured out the code of how to find out when the seasons change. And it's as simple as one indicator called the progressed moon. Now, I didn't believe in it to start with because my Mercury's in Taurus. I was like, that doesn't sound right, that the progressed chart would have such an effect on the natal chart. I was wrong. It is the single most, I think about it every single day. Where's my progressed moon? What house is it in? How's it aspected? So you can use the transits. Of course, you should use the transits. And I bet that there's a lot of teachers that you have, Amanda, in your school that really teach transits. And there's lots of ways to look at it in so many versions. This simple indicator, it's almost, I think of it as there's a puzzle and you pull one piece. It's like the hub. It's like Astrology hub. Where is the one piece in the middle of the puzzle that's going to determine the whole momentum? And that is the progressed moon. And it's shocking. And we're going to give examples of it. But it is as simple as a beginner who doesn't really know the complexity of transits can look at the progressed chart by going on astro.com, pulling just the moon out, and then identifying what season, what cycle, where it's touching, what's it affecting. All that becomes like a messenger.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. I've had people ask, and I'm sure you have as well, the question, I heard that I'm no longer a blank. I'm now a blank because my chart has moved. So people are asking, like, does your zodiac sun sign change over time? So how do you answer that?
It's an absolute yes. So the progressed chart, if you want to think of the natal chart's like a tattoo, it's never going to change. So you can glue it on your body from the moment of your birth. It's going to last throughout your life. The progressed chart is the movements that are constantly occurring from that tattoo. Like you may be, as you are, a Capricorn, but if you're born at 1 degree of Capricorn, let's go look at your chart. What degree was your sun the day you were born? It was at, oh my God, it was at 29 degrees. So this is so crazy. This is such a great example. So because the progressed sun moves 1 degree a year, by the time you reached 1 year old, you turned into an Aquarian. And it took 30 years for it to go through because it's 1 degree a year. So by 31 years old, you turned into a Pisces. And at 61 years old, you're going to turn into an Aries. So every year, 1 degree. If you started in the case with Amanda at 29 degrees Capricorn, this is now, the question is, of course, she's going to stay. Remember, the tattoo never goes away. You're always going to be a Capricorn. Behind the scenes, the progressed chart is a subtle indicator. It's a subtle, I think of it as suntan glass, like wearing sunglasses. You put on these everything stays the same. But you put these sunglasses on, and now for the next 29 years, when you hit 1 year old, you had an Aquarian energy that was present for you. Now, you can't feel it until you become conscious of it. So my progressed sun moved into Leo 8 years ago. I was dreading it. For 29 years, I was a Cancer. Obviously, I'm a Gemini. I don't know if you knew that. I was born at 3 degrees. So at 27 degrees, I turned into a Cancer. So from 27 to 57, I was a Cancer, which was exactly true of my character. I was a therapist, full-blown therapist. I loved listening to everyone tell me their family story. It was like my favorite thing. All of a sudden, the sun moved into Leo. I started getting my hair blow dried. I never did that before. I started wearing bright colors, all the colors that I wore. My whole wardrobe changed. And at first I was like, come on, this, as you say, like your chart changes. That's weird, but it's true. And I now recognize that Cancer influence, I don't do readings anymore the way I used to. For those 29 years when I was a Cancer, I was devoted to therapy. When I became a Leo, my school began, and I became a personality, and I became an image. And Debra Silverman has this whole identity as a Leo. It is so different than what it was when I was a Cancer. So that's the progressed sun. I hardly ever talk about it in our school because we focus exclusively on the progressed moon. But to your question, yes, the chart shifts, and you will feel it strongly when it goes from one sign to another, when it hits that 1 degree marker, and then it continues for those 30 years. It stays in that same sign, really noticeable underneath the system.
Okay, I'd love to hear from you in the chat if you or in the comments if you have had some of these experiences. Like think about your chart, think about every year being 1 degree, do a little math, figure out, who you were the first 30 years, when it changed. Well, it's not always the first 30 years for people, right?
Depends what degree. Like for
Right.
you, you were
Yeah.
1 years old. You turned. For me, I was 3 degrees of Gemini. So it wasn't until I was 27 when it hit
Right.
30 that
Okay.
came a Cancer.
There's all these fractals, right? Like, so that's the way I think about it. Like, there's all these different fractals of the same exact person or
Yeah.
soul.
And I'd say it's less. Oh, look at that. I would say it's a fractal. Don't, if I were you guys as beginners, I would not focus that much on the sun changing signs. Although it's relevant, I'm not understating it because I've really felt it myself. I'm wearing hot pink. However, I never ever wore this color for 29. I would never ever have. And like the blow drying and the hairdos and the public acclaim, that really did shift. However, what's far more interesting is the progressed moon. So don't spend because you've got to go figure out, oh, so I'm 3 degrees of Gemini, at 27 degrees, I turned into a Cancer. That's a little difficult. The progressed moon is not difficult.
Okay. Let's go there. Well, actually, okay, wait. Do you interpret the progressions of planets the same way you would interpret the role those planets play in the natal chart? So, for example, are you interpreting the progressed sun as like your core essence, and that core essence is putting different sunglasses on at these different phases of life, and then the progressed moon is more like your internal landscape, your where you feel nurtured and safe and taken care of and all those things. Are you applying the same logic?
That's exactly the same language. Yes.
Okay.
So, and that's why if we all speak about the human condition, our emotional bodies, whether we're teenagers or we're adults, is the ruling factor. The moon affects the water on Earth. The moon affects the water. As humans, we are like, I don't even know, 80% water. So the moon has so much effect as compared to the sun, clearly is your ego structure. And yes, it's relevant as it's described in traditional astrology, but it's subtle. It's behind the scenes. The sun changing signs, which I really have felt. And I have to say, I am both relieved I'm no longer a Cancer for those 29 years because I was such a caretaker. And I'm also self conscious that I'm a Leo because it's a very funny sign for me to be the person standing up and standing out and having to be publicly acclaimed. So it is real and substantial. It doesn't take away your sun sign. It doesn't take away your essence, to your point. It's just putting on a pair of sunglasses and becoming conscious. Like now that I know I'm a Leo, I've really had to grow into it. It isn't natural for me.
Do you know what's interesting, Deborah? So I would have gone into Pisces around age 30, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. That is around the time where I became no longer happy in New York, a very young kind of city, where I started to feel called towards nature and spirituality. That is exactly when I began to have my spiritual awakening, if you want to call it that. And I was called by like the beauty of Hawaii, the connection of Hawaii, the mystery of Hawaii, all those things. And I started dancing hula, and I started, wearing long dresses and whatever. And oh my gosh, if we're gonna talk about hair, in New York, I had a short black bob, straight. And when I got to Hawaii, there was no straightening hair. It was way too humid. So I started wearing my hair loose and naturally curly, and lightened with the sun. So all this, that
It really, so you really changed. And I'm telling you guys, you will see when the progressed sun changes signs, you really will change. And it's a very simple thing to go figure out. Well, and I hope that you can give the audience the how to use astro.com to look for the progressions.
Okay. Do you have one of those?
We have a link in our school. We have a link where we show people how to use it. So you can ask us for that.
I will ask you for that. And most of our audience is pretty well versed in astrology, and they have their softwares and things, but there are some people who might be new. So this is great. Okay. Deborah, why are you saying the progressed moon is a hub of the puzzle that holds the clues for everything else?
Because we're emotional creatures, because we're made out of water. Because the truth is, if you don't understand your inner workings, said the moon, in the dark, in the night, I mean, isn't that what astrology is? We bring light to the dark.
Mm,
Isn't that what
yeah.
psychology is? Carl Jung said it. We make the unconscious conscious. Isn't that our function as therapists? Said the therapist. Yes. So the moon has such a powerful influence on this earth. It's affecting the water on the planet. We can tell by, you know this, the Farmer's Almanac. They know when the waves go up and go down based on the moon's position. So it's not only affecting this planet, it's affecting us. And therefore, as human creatures, and raise your hand if you're human. Oh, look, everyone's raising their hand. You may not like it, but you are a victim and both a triumphant victor of knowing how to use your emotional body to serve you. Now, you could be a victim, and that's when we get stuck. When people call me and they say I'm stuck, I look right at their progressed moon, like, oh, it's in Taurus,
Mm,
a little slow, and you've misinterpreted that being slow means you're stuck. No. Or they call me and they say, I'm really feeling depressed. I can't figure this out. I'm like, oh, your progressed moon's in Scorpio.
mm,
Not depressed. It's an entrance into the self to go discover what you have been depressing.
mm. Okay. I know you're going to be doing a free webinar for our community where we're going to go deeper into this progressed moon idea. But if somebody's out there and they're wanting to like start digging in and figure out where their progressed moon is, how do you actually do that?
Super simple. You go on astro.com, you click under free horoscopes, you'll scroll down. First of all, you'll put your information in, and that'll be a regular natal chart. And then you'll put in extended charts. You'll scroll down, and all you want is the progressed, you'll say progressed chart. And it's a simple. And then you just pluck out of the puzzle the moon. At this moment, we went very advanced in the traditional Aquarius rising, because you know that's what Amanda is, went right to the future. That's the sun sign. But we're not that interested at this moment. I love to focus on where is the progress. I ask everyone, where's your progressed moon all the time? Everyone in my company. They change jobs, like what just happened to you. When that shift happens, when the progressed moon changes, we're going to talk about all this. So I'm not going to go into detail, but we let people change their jobs.
Wow. And it's in a sign for is it 2 years?
It's 2.5, 1 degree a month.
Okay.
29 degrees in a month, so it's 29 months.
Okay. And how does this equate to the season of our lives? Like, do we take where the zodiac, if the, do we take where the moon sign is and equate it to a season? Like, for example, is Pisces the end of winter?
No, it's the Pisces is winter, by the way. It's in February, but Pisces is, if you go into Pisces, now it's time to go in. It's an introverted era. So you can describe the water seasons are going to take you in, the fire seasons are going to take you out, the air seasons are going to make you study, the earth seasons are going to make you work. Super simple.
Mm.
And
Okay.
that's why, if you're interested, you guys, my first book, The Missing Element, where there's not any astrology in it, but it is pure elemental. And it really describes understanding not the progressed moon, but the elements in depth. That book really has given people wisdom around the elements.
It's so good. I have the, I think you sent me that book. It's a really good one. Okay. Tell us about how we can use information about our progressed moon to schedule, to like actually create our day-to-day reality.
So, 3 ingredients. We're going to do all this in the class. So, we're going to repeat ourselves, you guys, that come take the free class and all that, but we'll go into much more detail. If your progressed moon is in the element first, just the element, and you know that you're going into a water cycle, you're going to want to create a day-to-day practice because that's requiring you to meditate. If you don't do that during a progressed moon in water, you're going to find yourself disrupted because you didn't prioritize your inner world.
Mm.
So these are the things. So that's first thing is the element. I'm going to leave it there. The second thing is, of course, what sign is it? If you're progressed moon, if you're in the case with Amanda, she's a Capricorn. If her progressed moon's gone into Aries, and we know that Aries and Capricorn don't get along, they're squared, then she's going to have a 2.5 year cycle where some part of her is pushing her. And then she misinterprets that as like, I'm so frustrated. No, you're being asked to work with your Aries energy. So this translates what was once frustration or blockage or being stuck to understanding. So the first is the element, the next is the sign and its relationship to your sun sign.
Mm.
And then the third,
I'm sorry, Deborah, real quick. And I know this is a little more detailed question, but just the relationship to your son?
you know, it's so subtle, and I hate making astrology complicated.
Yeah.
So you could certainly, when my progressed moon transits over one of my natal planets, like my Pluto, when my progressed moon hit my Pluto, of course, it had huge effect. And it lasted for, it's 1 degree a month. I didn't tell you that. So every month it moves 1 degree. So when the progressed moon hits one of your personal outer planets, you're going to feel it. But this is more advanced, and she's taking me as a true Aquarian all over the place because we love that about her. And her moon's in Gemini. Why not? I'm going to tell you to start with identify the progressed moon, look at the element it's in, then go look at the sign it's in. And then if you're a sophisticated astrologer, pay attention. Is it hitting any planets? Is it squaring your sun? It affects the ego, the sun sign, and that is a direct influence of where you're comfortable. But that doesn't mean if it's squaring your Mars or it's opposite your Venus, I don't pay that much attention to those abstract because there's so much information that comes to me by the position of the element, by the sign, and the last and most third important is the house it's in.
Okay.
Do not underestimate that. And when it changes, like I can't wait. Mine's about to change in 6 months. I'm counting the days.
What's it changing to?
It's changing into my first house. It's been in my 12th, and I have had this like bizarre need to be alone, even though it's in Libra. And that's where it gets confusing because you mix the sign with the house. So I've been like communing so much in nature. And you saw this when you came to see me, but usually I'm alone. So my progressed moon in Libra wants to collaborate with nature in the 12th house where nobody is. Weird.
Well, that's great. That's where you're getting all your wisdom
My
and
downloads, but it's going to move into my first house, and I'm really looking for, because after 2.5 years, you start to go, okay, moving.
right. Ready? Okay, you said something earlier that I want to circle back to, which was that this is only expressing in your life as much as you're conscious of it. Is that true? Because I gotta say, I was completely unconscious of astrology all the way until age, what, 33?
Well, it's still operative, but you're
Right.
not facilitating it. You're not a magician. You're not dancing with them.
Not dancing with it. There you go. It's just happening and you don't
Operative. It's
understand
100% operative. But if you don't know how to dance, you're just being confused by why the music just changed.
why. Okay. So being aware of it helps you actually engage with it and
And prepare. I
mm,
used it when I knew when I knew it was time to write. I waited till my progressed moon entered Virgo. I was like, this is perfect.
mm.
And I thoroughly enjoyed it, which I
Okay.
usually wouldn't.
So, Deborah, what if you're someone who has their heart set on launching a new project or starting a business or getting married or, whatever it is, having children, and you find out about your progressed moon and it doesn't seem to align with your plans? What do you do with that information?
That's such a great question. First of all, what you're going to find out is most people are intuitively, not consciously, following their rhythm.
Mm.
So someone will say, I'm just getting ready to move. And I look at the chart and I go, that's the funniest thing because your progressed moon's entering your fourth house. That's clues.
Mm.
So if it's off to that extent where you're aiming for something that's completely not yours, you will not be able to find the cosmic rhythm. You will not be in the flow. It's real. So don't fight with nature. Who fights with a mountain? Who argues with the sun coming up every day? Give it up. No. Mm-mm. So pay attention to the cycles and get in alignment. Once you do, it's so easy.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Can we talk about some examples?
Yes. This is one of my favorite examples. This was I want to say 8 years ago. My progressed moon was just turning into Cancer. It just left Gemini, where I was all about social media and I was all about being with people and I was teaching and teaching. And then all of a sudden I had this urge, and I wasn't aware of it because I was zero. It was like you, it was at 0 degrees. I wasn't paying that much attention. And I'm in Hawaii and I'm driving to a furniture store, which I had never done before in my life. And my observer comes on and I'm like, you're driving to a furniture store and your progressed moon just entered Cancer? Really? Like, oh. Or that one I really thought was hysterical, that I redecorated the whole thing and it took me about a year to get all the color. I was obsessed. That's one of the flavors. Or another example was when it moved into Leo and I found out about this place called where you get your hair blow dried and they just blow dry your hair. That's what the whole place is called. What's it called?
Yeah,
A
the
dry
blow
bar.
bars,
A
dry
dry,
bar. Yes, yes,
I
yes.
had never, listen, I never heard of a dry bar in my life. I was like, oh my God, my progressed moon's in Leo and I've got standing appointments at the dry bar. I mean, it becomes funny because at first you're unconsciously doing it, then you're consciously doing it, then you encourage yourself, of course we're going to go to the dry bar. Like, of course we're buying fruit. Like, don't resist nature.
Okay, how much does this dominate your natal chart?
A lot. I think about it every single day. I
So
think about progressing.
if you're a Leo and you have a Leo rising and your Mars is in Leo, and then your progressed moon goes into Pisces.
It's awkward.
Okay.
It's so real. I'm telling you, you guys, this is so great that it's free and this is on a podcast. And yes, I'm teaching a full class this summer, but it doesn't matter. You can start as a baby astrologer and start paying attention to this particular indicator. And you are going to write me back and go, that's crazy.
Okay, I kind of didn't believe you. We were at lunch on Kauai when we went to do the podcast recording and all this fun stuff. And you looked at my chart and went, your progressed moon went into Pisces like yesterday. Yeah, I mean, it was like literally, I mean, it was within days. And I went, huh, that doesn't that doesn't resonate with me, because I'm about to launch a book. I don't feel like I'm getting any like more internal or, it seems only like I'm going even more kind of out there. So I wasn't really believing you that much.
Oh,
But
good to
now,
hear about the greatest.
yes, okay, now 3 months in, there is a project in front of me in which I will be selecting to be very behind the scenes, very much a creator of a thing in which people may or may not know I was ever involved.
So Pisces.
No, and I'm like, whoa, that is fascinating. Deborah said these kinds of things were going to be
And
happening.
that's what's so comforting because to your point about asking, it doesn't require being conscious of it. It's already operative. The variable, though, once you know, then you go, of course I'm going to do that. It's congruent to something I
Yeah.
didn't recognize till the astrologer told me. This is why in my readings, when someone, I'm not going to give it all away now, but I know when to pay attention when the degrees begin to change, how to caution the client, how to prepare them. And it's astounding. It's
Hmm.
tires hit the ground. You're like, astrology is a lot of hot air. We talk and we talk and we talk and we study and we talk. And my Mercury's in Taurus, yours is in Capricorn. Show me the money. Like
Hmm.
this shit grow things. Are we going to get results? And yes, the progressed moon yields fruit.
Mm. Okay, tell us about the free webinar, which by the way, she is doing a Astrology Hub exclusive webinar on the progressed moon just for our community. She's going to be offering it to her community a little bit later, but we're getting first access. And there's going to be a really special gift for those of you who actually do participate in this free webinar. So I would highly recommend checking it out. You can go to astrologyhub.com/progressed moon, astrologyhub.com/progressed moon, and that's going to be where you sign up for the free webinar. But tell us where we're going to go with it because we already gave them like some great ways to get
I
started.
think what we didn't give them is to know the timing because you want to pay attention to timing. That's the function of the progressions are the evolution of the psyche. So there's a lot more information about this, which we're not going to do right now, but I'm going to give you a clue. Knowing if I would have said to you 3 months earlier, Amanda, your chart's about to shift. Look for things that take you inside. Stop pushing. You're going to have to let this book flow because you're going to go into a cycle. And the magic that occurs when you're, again, I'm going to say, when you're in sync with it is way less effort. The big thing with the progressed moon is it takes off any feeling of being stuck. It takes off the feeling of being frustrated. You're not walking uphill. That's a big variable. And the timing is something we're going to address. We're going to address the effect of each sign. I just gave you 2 clues of going to the furniture store and getting my hair blow dried. I just did a whole, because I'm preparing for this class, I just did the last 30 years of my life because I am, as you know, almost 70. So I have quite a track record of looking backwards. And it's just, you can't, that's one of the funnest things that we will do in the advanced class is doing an inventory of like, When I was depressed and I went through that really dark period, oh, my progression was a Scorpio. When I was just starting to work out like a crazy, I was literally doing 2 yoga classes a day. Oh, my progression was an Aries. So it confirms and validates astrology, especially for people that don't believe, that are skeptical. You'll be saying, I can tell you when you made the change. And they're like, not just transits, it's the progression that has such a profound effect.
Mhm. What I love about this, especially, is our culture is so driven. There's so much yang, produce, go energy that this allows us to really flow with nature and in our own internal timing and not feel bad about it and trust it. Because what you said is really important. The part where when we align with it, everything happens with a lot less effort. And I don't know about all of you, but there have absolutely been times where I feel like I'm pushing a boulder uphill, especially before I knew astrology. Like when I moved to the Big Island from Manhattan, I was under a ton of financial pressure. And so I was like, I gotta get something new going right away. And I gotta, create some new online thing. And I tried. I actually like launched a thing and it totally failed. And at the time, I had a reading with Natasha Alter, and she goes, this is not the time to be focused on your career. This is the time for you to be focused on your family. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Focusing on my family doesn't pay the bills. How am I going to do that? So I totally poo pooed her guidance, went driving ahead as I thought I should. It failed. And also, my marriage fell apart. So, like, everything fell apart. And what would have happened if I had just honored where I was at? Like, if I could have had some trust in, okay, well, the financial thing will work itself out. I need to focus on my family right now, but I didn't. So, it's
That's so profound. I mean, you guys need to know that there is a rhythm and a season and a cycle, and astrology is all about timing.
yeah.
So whether you're studying transits, which is a far more complex version, or you take this one small indicator that you will be saying afterwards, I can't believe how much that changed things.
Right. And then there's that, oh, shoot, I wish I knew this earlier. Okay, wait, Deborah. So I just want to tell everybody when the free webinar is happening for our Astrology Hub podcast listeners, YouTube subscribers, anyone that is a part of the inner circle, the Astrology Hub community at large. You're all invited. And it's happening on June 24th at 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern. I'm sorry, everybody abroad. I can't do the math that fast while we're here live, but that's when it's gonna be happening. And if you do sign up, you will, even if you can't make it live, you're gonna get the recording. And I love, so I have, my moon was in Aquarius, right? And this has been the like major time of me building the Astrology Hub community. And I'm going to continue that though. I'm going to continue in the sense that coming together for these live events is a great way to experience community because we're all in the chat. It's happening live. There's usually surprises when we're doing any sort of live event. There's no editing. It's all just happening organically, which I think there's a magic to that as well. So if you can be there live, it's going to be an amazing event. And Deborah is, as you have experienced, entertaining, humorous, and so wise. So we're going to learn a lot and we're going to have fun while we do it. Deborah, is there anything else you want to share about, like, just to get people kind of ready for joining?
If you're advanced, just be innocent enough to be humbled and say, is there another small little indicator that would really be that important? And if you're a beginner, you'll know enough. This is a really good thing for someone who knows the 12 signs, knows the 10 planets, knows the houses. But when transits show up, you're like, I'm a little confused. This makes it simple.
I love it. Deborah, thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for offering this webinar to our community. And just thank you for being such a beautiful presence in my life and in the lives of so many astrology students. You really have, I really can say that I think you are the person who has laid the clearest, strongest, most direct bridge for people who go from curious to student. And I'm just, thank you for that.
That's it.
Amazing role that you've played.
So grateful to you.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. Thank you for being here. I hope you'll join us for that webinar. We're going to put the link in the show notes, but if you do want to just remember it, astrologyhub.com/progressed moon. and that is happening on Tuesday, June 24th. I'd love to see you there. All right.
Yeah.